It was night. For the world, an ordinary night. But in one small, forgotten corner of Ukraine, time itself was about to stop. The silence was shattered by a roar that tore the sky asunder. An explosion. Not an act of war, but something infinitely worse. A human error, invisible, lethal, had just unleashed hell on Earth. Black smoke, fire, and fear. A cloud, heavy with death, began its slow, inexorable ascent. No one knew. No one could imagine. But from that moment, the world would never be the same. It all began on a silent night that would never truly end. Pripyat. A city that in 1970, it was built to house the workers of the nuclear power plant. It was a monument to Soviet modernity. Straight avenues, buildings of azure and white, schools, parks, theaters, swimming pools. Children rode bicycles. Families strolled carefree. An amusement park stood ready, its Ferris wheel gazing out over the prairie. A city designed for the future, illuminated by the promise of an inexhaustible source of energy. Clean, inexpensive power. No coal, no smoke. This was the pride of the Soviet nuclear industry, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. 5 identical reactors, the last 2 still under construction at the moment of the disaster. The 4 operational units were advanced engines of progress, generating electricity for the regional grid. The plant was a beating heart, giving life to an entire region, powering its homes, schools, hospitals, and industries. But beneath the brilliant facade, a fatal fragility was hidden. Its reactor, an RBMK type, had a flaw. It could become dangerously unstable when operated at low power. The graphite used in its core, meant to control the reaction, could, under the wrong conditions, amplify it exponentially. And in its very design, a key protection was missing. A containment structure, a final armored shell that should have sealed in radiation during an emergency. These were errors of design, compounded by a series of decisions made to simplify construction, to save time and money, but without true consideration for the risks. In the preceding years, technicians and engineers had noted these faults. They focused their attention on the reactor's volatile behavior during low power states and risky maneuvers. But pride and haste, a fatal combination, ensured that no one would interpret these signals as the dire warnings they were. They were the tremors before the earthquake, dismissed as the acceptable cost of ambition. And so, the Chernobyl plant produced. And so, the city of Pripyat grew. No one imagined that the seemingly solid system was in truth as fragile as a castle of sand. Until that night. It is deep in the early morning of April 26, 1986. The clock reads 1:23. Inside the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, time seems to flow as it always has. Weary technicians are running a test. It was meant to be quick, almost trivial, a safety drill. But something goes wrong, and that test becomes the prelude to the most severe nuclear catastrophe in human history. Hasty decisions, garbled communications, ignored warnings. The reactor enters an unstable spiral. The pressure climbs. The valves refuse to respond. Then, suddenly, the darkness is torn open by a blinding white light. An explosion. Reactor number 4 is blown apart. The building shudders. Its roof is vaporized into the sky. A column of fire rises above the plant. But this is not merely fire. It is incandescent graphite, toxic vapor, lethal particles. It is an invisible, silent radiation that penetrates the body, devastating it from within. A few kilometers away, the city of Pripyat sleeps. Children in their beds, families lost in dreams, unaware that a mortal cloud is already drifting toward them. Yet, beside the ruptured reactor, there are men. Firefighters, workers, soldiers. They do not know. They believe it is an ordinary fire, and they are marching into the heart of the invisible. The first fire trucks arrive. The men have no protective gear, no masks. With their bare hands, they pick up glowing fragments of graphite. No one warned them. No one told them that in these few seconds, they are absorbing lethal doses of radiation. One of them, his skin already burned, looks up at the sky. A violet light cuts through the night. "It's beautiful," he whispers. But this light is not beauty. It is death taking form. Morning breaks. The sun rises over Pripyat, a familiar yellow, as always. But there is nothing normal in the air. You cannot see it. You cannot touch it. But it is there, an invisible poison coating everything. The streets, the rooftops, the parks where children will play for hours more. No alarm sounds. The authorities are silent. In Pripyat, people awaken as they do every day. They go to work. Children go to school. Some complain of a sudden headache, a wave of nausea. Others notice a metallic taste in their mouths. It is the radiation, but no one knows. Parents go for walks. The youngest climb aboard the Ferris wheel, happy. But it is their last. A final, fleeting moment of innocence before the world they knew was erased by a force they could neither see nor comprehend. Around the ruined reactor, men in dark uniforms move through the chaos. Military officers, technicians, scientists, all are searching for an answer, but no one is speaking the truth. Some are sent toward the exposed heart of the explosion. They remain for only a few minutes, but it is enough. They vomit. They collapse. Their skin turns red, then begins to peel away. Their eyes will not see another sunset. In the highest echelons of Soviet power, the directive is to minimize, to conceal. The incident is officially classified as under control, but it is not. The reactor is still burning, hemorrhaging a poison into the sky. The radioactive plume rises, a ghost unbound. It is carried on the wind, beginning a silent march to the west, over Belarus, then Eastern Europe, then Scandinavia. It will drift as far as Italy, but in these first moments, everything is shrouded in a surreal silence, the most dangerous silence of all. Because no one is warning the people. No one is telling the truth. Meanwhile, more firefighters are dispatched to the site. Some are young, impossibly young. One is just 23 years old. They are sent to fight a fire that cannot be extinguished with water. Beneath their helmets, their faces are seared by an unseen heat. Their hands burn as they touch the superheated steel. They are battling an enemy they do not understand. In the sky, helicopters begin to circle the plant. From above, the orders are clear. Drop sand, clay, lead. Ton upon ton, a desperate attempt to smother the radioactive inferno. But the air is dense, unstable, the currents warped by the immense heat rising from the core. In a fatal maneuver, one of the helicopters clips a suspended cable. The rotor shatters. The entire machine turns over and plummets, a wounded hawk falling from the sky. It crashes directly beside the reactor. The 4 men on board die instantly. An invisible sacrifice, hidden from the world, forgotten by many. Nearly 36 hours have passed since the explosion. The city of Pripyat is still alive, still standing. Life continues as if nothing has happened. Children play in the parks, parents shop for groceries, couples are married. But some begin to notice the subtle signs of a world turning upside down. Birds fall from the sky. The leaves on the trees turn yellow in a matter of hours. A strange weakness settles over the people. Confusion, dizziness, nosebleeds. No one dares to give a name to what is happening. Then suddenly, the order comes. A metallic voice from loudspeakers announces the evacuation. Take only what is necessary. You will return in 3 days. It is a merciful lie. No one will ever return. Buses arrive in a great wave, forming interminable lines. People embrace, they weep, they clutch their children's hands. Some bring their pets, but many are left behind. Homes are left open, meals half-eaten on tables, toys scattered across floors. In an instant, every object becomes a relic, a memory of a life interrupted, a story frozen in the silent, poisoned air. Pripyat is dying in silence. In the span of just 3 hours, 45,000 people are evacuated, without knowing, without understanding, without any means of defense. Behind the curtain of state power, the Soviet government scrambles to contain the story, to stop the world from discovering the truth. But this is an invisible fire that cannot be concealed. Hundreds of kilometers away, in Sweden, instruments at a nuclear power plant begin to scream, detecting anomalous levels of radiation. There has been no accident there. The question hangs in the air. Where is this coming from? The answer arrives from a place called Chernobyl, and it arrives too late. In Moscow, in the great Soviet cities, the populace knows almost nothing. State television speaks of a minor leak, of no immediate danger. But in the back rooms, scientists and generals know a wound has been opened that can never be closed. The radiation levels are devastating. The earth is contaminated. The water is contaminated. The air is poison. The liquidators, the men sent to contain the catastrophe, begin to work day and night. Soldiers, factory workers, miners, they are sent to the front line with inadequate gear, with rudimentary masks. Some climb to the rooftop to shovel away chunks of radioactive graphite, knowing that every second spent there erases years from their lives. Some are allowed only 60 seconds. Others will be dead in a matter of days. The reactor smolders, and every breath is a step toward death. Deep in its belly, the nuclear fuel continues to melt. If it reaches the water pooled beneath the plant, the resulting steam explosion could obliterate everything for miles. A second apocalypse. The only solution is an act of desperation, to dig a tunnel beneath the melting core and cool it from below. And so they arrive, the miners, men of dust and coal, accustomed to darkness and hardship. They come from Donetsk, from Tula, from the far reaches of Siberia. They work in shifts, around the clock, in conditions no human should ever have to face. They dig without ventilation, without protection. The heat is so intense, many work naked, armed with only a shovel and their will. There is no time for fear. There is no time for questions. They know the probability of their own survival is low, but they dig. They dig because someone must. Because if they fail, millions more may die. Above them, a new structure begins to rise. A sarcophagus, built not to contain life, but to entomb death. A monstrous shell of concrete and steel, erected in mere months, intended to last for decades. It would begin to fail in just a few years, but in that moment, its purpose was to seal the wound, to hide the failure, to bury the shame. And as Chernobyl burns, a continent holds its breath. An invisible cloud has already begun its journey, crossing borders, skies, and seas, a silent messenger carrying a warning that would echo for generations. It is a silence that speaks of the cost of a lie, and a land that will hold its memory long after the names of the dead are forgotten. An invisible specter borne on the wind. It drifted over mountains, it settled upon the plains. In Germany, schools were shuttered. In Italy, mothers were warned not to breastfeed their children. In Austria, fresh vegetables were forbidden from the markets. In Sweden, scientists measured the poison in the quiet of the forests. Across a continent, the true data was obscured, the scale of the danger minimized. A population was afraid, but it could not understand. No one would explain. The enemy had no face. It made no sound. And all the while, in the lands closest to the fire, the world was beginning to unravel. Animals died by the hundreds. Cows miscarried their young. The trees themselves began to change color, their pine needles turning a ghastly shade of ginger brown. The Red Forest was born, an ecosystem scorched from within by the very essence of its own atoms. Everything that had been alive was now irrevocably altered. The fire in Reactor 4 was extinguished, but the killing had only just begun. Weeks turned to months. The radiation remained, a silent poison working its way into the body, burrowing deep into the marrow of the bone. It left its signature everywhere: tumors, leukemias, and malformations never before seen. Some deaths were immediate. Others would take the slow road of a lifetime to arrive. And then, there were the most silent victims of all: the children. Thousands born in the months and years that followed carried the disaster in their very cells. Some with hearts too small to sustain them, others with eyes set too far apart, and countless more with tumors on the thyroid, the signature malignancy of the radioactive cloud. The final count of the dead remains, to this day, a subject of fierce debate. Estimates range from a few thousand to more than 100,000. But the cold calculus of statistics fails, because behind every number is a life, a story, a face. What is left today? A ghost city, Pripyat. Its hollowed windows stare out into the void. A rusted Ferris wheel that never carried a laughing child stands silent against the sky. Dolls, caked in radioactive dust, lie forgotten in their cribs. Every building is a monument to a frozen moment in time. Every corner, a testament to a life interrupted. The exclusion zone is a wound carved into the map, as vast as an entire region. Here, nature has reclaimed the land, but it is a strange and altered dominion. Wolves, deer, and birds move through the ruins, but no one truly knows if they are whole, if the poison still works its way through their generations. It is as if the earth itself is still holding its breath. For in this place, something was born of the disaster. Something beyond science, beyond logic, beyond fear. A legacy that is not yet finished writing its story upon the land and upon us all. Against all reason, some returned. They were the elderly, the farmers, men and women who had lost everything yet refused to lose their roots. They came back to their small wooden houses among the skeletal remains of chicken coops, the overgrown vegetable gardens, and the old stone wells. They live alone or in the smallest of groups, holding no fear of the soil beneath their feet, the water they draw, or the very air they breathe. They plant potatoes in the forbidden earth. They gather mushrooms from the silent forests. They drink the milk of their goats. As evening falls, they light their fires. They pray, and they remember. To the state, they are illegal trespassers. To themselves, they are simply home. And here lies the paradox that confounds the world. Many of them are well. For decades they have survived here, without medicine, without hospitals. Some have lived beyond their 90th year. A few have even suffered fewer illnesses than their evacuated counterparts. Scientists study them, searching for answers in a place that defies easy explanation. But perhaps the answer is not in the data. Perhaps it is the force of ritual, or a love for one's own land so profound it is more powerful than fear. Surrounded by an immense silence, these people represent something that transcends the disaster. They are a lesson in the very meaning of belonging. A living testament that even in a landscape of ruin, life can stubbornly, defiantly bloom. Chernobyl is not merely a place. It is a wound in history, a scar etched into the flesh of humanity. The fire is no longer visible. The catastrophic roar has long since faded, but the pain remains, hidden beneath the earth, carried in the body, held in the heart. It is more than a disaster. It is a warning, a cry, an eternal reminder of what can happen when human arrogance challenges the laws of nature. We built something we did not understand. We ignored the signs, and we paid the price, with silence, with time, with lives. But in that silence, something endures. Memory, courage, truth. For the story of Chernobyl is not over. It is still there, reminding us that we are not gods, that every choice carries a cost, and that even in the deepest desolation, life will always, always find a way to breathe again.